Alright, am I live? We gonna find out. Okay, well, hold on. It says maybe. Why don't I see anything? Oh, it's just angry at me. How about we go to the live stream, YouTube? Hey, look, there we are. All right. Sorry about this. I will, after everything's done processing, I'm gonna go back into YouTube and see if I can trim out that bit where everything said it was streaming, but then it just wasn't popping up on YouTube. So, yeah, that was fun. Okay, so here we are. This video right now is going to be a viewer requested video. I got this as a comment on another video. So if there's anything you might want to know, definitely put those in the comments down below. It's definitely very helpful, gives me some ideas. I'll get to them as soon as I can. I have a lot of stuff to be doing this upcoming summer, as well as several video ideas planned out as well that I just need to kind of get through topic wise. All right, so with that being said, let's just jump into it. If you learn something, enjoy it, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. My name's Mr. Barden. If you haven't been here before, welcome. What I have up here on the screen is a code, and actually the link is down below in the description if you wanted to look at this yourself on your device. But basically, what it's doing is it is going to be utilizing the recorder object with the tone library in order to record processed sounds. Um, so a lot of what I'm pulling from here is coming from the recorder reference page for the tone library. And again, there's a link in the description below. So you can pull this up, check it out. I don't know exactly what you may or may not use this for your project, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. I'm just going to show how to hook up a sound process, get that process, and record it to a file you can download. This may be helpful, this may not. Again, it depends on exactly how you are using this object. Uh, so what I've got here is a sketch, and I've already got the tone library loaded into P5's HTML file. I've got other videos about doing this, getting it ready to go, but just make sure that if you're doing this from the ground up, make sure that you actually include the tone library to use those functions in your sketch, regardless of what editor you may be using. I've also loaded in a sound file. It's just a little bonk kind of sound. In fact, we can play it when I run the sketch with this button, and that's what I've got right here. I just made a button, and we're going to run this function whenever it clicks. Right now, most of the recording stuff is commented out, but it is going to start the playback of the sound. So if we play it, you should have heard that out of your speakers, but it goes clunk. There you go. I'm doing nothing in the draw function. Um, so again, just to kind of briefly go through what I'm doing right now, um, I've got basically I've got the recorder set up and that's made, as well as a reverb and a ping pong delay effect. I'm making the new tone.player and I'm just sending it out to the speakers. At the moment, that's what we just heard, and then I've got the button to do that. To swap this up, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my line 14, and I'm going to uncomment this right here on my line 12. And now I'm still making the tone.player object. It's a little out of space here. If I move this over, will it be a bit better? Not quite, but there we are. Now there's just more space, so it's all on one line. But we're making the player object to play this file, and we're going to chain it and specifically send the output of that file to the delay object that I've made, and then the reverb, and then the destination so we can hear it in our speakers. You don't have to do this, but again, if you want to hear your sounds, you need to send it to the destination speakers. And then the last thing in the line is the recorder object. So it is very important that when you're setting this up, you put the recorder at the end of what you want to record, the end of your signal chain. Because, for a few reasons. One, if you don't and you have stuff afterwards, you're not going to be recording those effects. All right, so again, I purposely set up my delay and reverb to make it super obnoxious and noticeable compared to the original. But if you had other stuff, like maybe a vibrato or a tremolo or things after the recorder, because it's after the recorder in the pathway, that's not getting recorded. So you want to put the recorder object at the end of your pathway. The other and perhaps more important reason, it's a little less conceptual though, is that the recorder object actually does not have an output. So you cannot connect it to anything else. So again, you'll get an error that you can't connect this object because it has no outputs. So again, the recorder has to be at the end of your signal pathway, partly for the conceptual reasons, partly for the Tone just won't let you do that. So we have that right there. If I play this now, we're gonna get we may get some bugs because I have some stuff commented out down below, but we'll find out. I forgot to refresh that. All right, we didn't get a bug, which is nice, but nothing else happened. That's because we haven't told the recorder to actually record anything yet, but you should have heard the difference. Now instead of a bonk, it's all reverby and fun. All right, so that's just making the button. But whenever we click the button, we're going to run function sounds, and we're going to run it one time. It's important that you set it up kind of like this, that you're only triggering the recorder to start and stop one time. Because again, just like playing back a sound file in a looping function, you're going to run into bugs where you're going to start and stop the recording. And the best case scenario is you get like 30 files downloaded all at once that are identical. The worst case, you can start locking up and freezing some of your computer if you aren't too careful. Okay, so again, this function right now, it's just playing back the sound file. Everything that's commented here is what we need to actually have it record the sounds and save it as a file. So I'm going to uncomment that. And I've already got some of my comments here already that are going to be kind of helpful, hopefully. So the first thing you have to do is start the recorder. And all of this is coming directly from the reference code right here. I literally just copy and pasted this and then made a few small tweaks. So definitely check this out. But basically we have to start the recorder, which turns it on. And then what we have here, this set timeout, asynchronous, blah, 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 blah. Basically what is going on here is, if you're not familiar with this kind of syntax, is we are making a local function. This function only exists in the context of the other function, and basically we're saying when we trigger function A, function B is going to do a thing. Function B doesn't even have a name, and we're just kind of making it ready to go. So just that's generally what's going on. We're making things kind of it's different. I would personally use let myself, but that's just because I like being consistent. But if you're not familiar with const, that's just making something that is constant and doesn't change. So we're setting up, we're going to make the recording, and basically we're going to wait for the recorder to stop. And then we're going to make a URL with that, and just make an object, and we're going to save it eventually as the download to a recording.webm file. This is just a format for audio files. I tested this out, and you can definitely get MP3 and WAV files. You may potentially run into bugs depending on how you're going to use them in the formatting. I didn't dive that deep into it because I don't personally download my processed files with how I utilize this environment with my personal workflow. So again, you may potentially run into issues. I didn't dive that deep into it, but really all you would do is just change the WebM to MP3. All right, cool. And then that'll save it as the MP3 file. I'm using the Opera GX web browser. This will also work in Chrome, according to I read this somewhere. Chrome and Firefox for this object. Again, if you're using something else, you may run into other bugs potentially. But then there's all that. So basically, we're going to trigger the sound. It's going to record it, then stop and save it, and there we go. And that's all that's happening. This happens automatically. Um, and again, we're creating an anchor element and blah, again, it's just filling all of that in right there. Um, and it's pretty straightforward. So at this point, I'm going to refresh my code now that I've uncommented that, and I'm going to click to play the sound. We're going to hear it, and then it's going to take a second and about 4 seconds, and then download the sound, and we'll see it pop up over here. And then boom, right there. I already did this test, but so that changed right there. So if you wanted to change this to anything else, we could name it Bob.mp3, and we can click again, and it reruns all that code. And now, oh, that didn't actually. Oh, I forgot to update my. I forgot I turned off auto refresh, but now it's played, and boom, we get Bob.mp3 right here. Let me just pull that up. Right there. There we are. Yeah, you can see. Yeah, I got nothing that's gross in this file to put on YouTube. So yeah, you can see my previous recordings, the thumbnail for this video and another video I did, and my testing. But here we are, Bob.mp3. We could open it with. I use VLC for a lot of this. It's pretty useful, but maybe we can play it. Try it. Well, apparently Bob.mp3 isn't working, but Huh. That's funny. They worked yesterday. Let's put this back as a um, WebM file. Let's just refresh that. Now we've got bob.webm. There we go. And now we can see it's a different icon. And it plays in the VLC media player. I would probably recommend using a different converter to swap it, just because we ran into that issue right now, which was weird because the MP3 played, if I remember right. Last time I checked, I'm not going to get into that much detail. But again, you can download it as a web M file, web music, I think it stands for. I'm not an expert on all the various files, but you can download that, and I'm sure that there are all the converters you can use to swap it for whatever format you need. But that's pretty much it. If you wanted to, again, I just put this all in one function to keep it in one place, but you could get all this material right here, basically everything in this function up to start, and put that in some other function, record, and you can just call that whenever you want to record something. But again, the important things to remember with this, as we're kind of approaching the end here, is again, you got to make the object, and then you have to send audio to it to have it record. This can work with processed files. This can work with synthesizers, which they do in the demo on the Tone page with the synthesizers. I just didn't feel like setting that up. It can be whatever. You just have to send audio to it to be recorded. The recorder has to be at the end of the signal pathway. All right, because again, there's no outputs, and even if there were, anything that happened after the recorder wouldn't get recorded anyway, so that's why there's no outputs. If you want to hear it, you need to make sure you have the tone.destination in your chain before then. Otherwise, again, you just won't hear it out of your speakers, but it will still record the file. I like doing it like this because that way I can hear it, so that way I know what the file is going to sound like, but that may not be what you want for your application. You need to have some kind of trigger. I did an on-screen button, but some trigger that triggers the recording to happen just one time. When that does, we need to start the recording. That's kind of important, and then we're setting up some of this important stuff for to start determining the format and the file name, getting all of the everything ready to go, and then starting the sound playback that we're recording. That playback is being processed through this signal chain of very simple objects just to prove a point. Um, and I think that's everything. So again, hopefully this was very helpful for you all. You can get your stuff worked out, how you might need to have it. Let me just save that sketch again, so you can check out this sketch as well as the reference material. I think I also put the what is it, the textbook and other stuff in the description as well, just as a holdover from the last thing I recorded. Um, and yeah, that should be hopefully enough to get you started and get you going. If you learned something, if you enjoyed the content, definitely give it a like. Consider subscribing if you want to see more. I would love to get plenty of viewer suggestions for things that you all want to see on the channel for how to do XYZ kind of coding tutorials, things like that. Actually, I'll use this just to say it. I'm going to be coming out with a playlist, which you should see once this video goes live on my YouTube channel. And this playlist will all be user requested videos. So put those down